Sabado is brought to you by MSI, the leading brand in high-end gaming. The Music Source, make your online streaming look and sound professional. Get your Mackie Pro audio gear from the Music Source. XSplit Broadcaster, a professional live streaming software. And Smart Communications, the Philippines' leading wireless services provider. Check the links on the description to avail our sponsors' products and services.
Teka, Sabado. Kasama ang ating tech journalist na si Jing Garcia at Melvin Calimag. Tech Sabado.
Woo! Yes! We're back dito sa Tech Sabado. Yan ha. Galing pa yan sa ating sa PCOO chief na malapit lang patapos ang kanyang termino. Anyway, yan. Good evening po sa inyong lahat at welcome po sa Tech Sabado. Yes, Jing Garcia po ng techsabado.com and the Manila Times. IT editor po tayo doon tuwing Sunday for the business and IT Sunday page po ng Manila Times. And of course, every Saturday, wala tayong ibang kasama dito sa Tech Sabado for 7 years. 7th year na po ng Tech Sabado. Walang iba kundi si Atty.
Melvin Calimag po ng Newsbytes.ph
na nagse-celebrate ng kanyang
12 years. Yeah.
Woo! 12 years ng 12 years ng
Newsbytes, ang Newsbytes.
Ang Newsbytes. Woo!
Tapos 7 years na tayo sa
Tech Sabado.
Yeah. Pero yung natin Jing sa overall IT journalism natin, pareho tayo sabay tayong pumasok no. So 23 years na tayo.
23 years, grabe. Grabe 23.
Ano pala kami noon yan? 10 years old pa lang ako noon, si Jing naman 20 years old. Kaya maaga.
Yan, okay. So, bilangin natin, 23 years na po kami sa IT journalism. Ibig sabihin ng 23 years na rin kami magkaibigan ni Atty. Melvin Calimag.
Doon na kami nagkakilala ni Jing sa beat no? Jing,
sa beat kami nagkakilala. Yung early days no, ng Cyberpress. Ano pa lang Cyberpress noon? On the 5th or 6th year pa lang ng Cyberpress noong time na yun. Tapos,
bago pa lang
Cyberpress.
Baka third pa nga lang yun eh.
Maaga pa, no? Tapos nasa, tama ba? Computer Times, di ba?
Ako. Ikaw, Manila Standard.
Sa Manila Standard ako noon, time na yun. First ano ko rin yun, first stint ko rin sa IT. Nagsusulat na kasi ako doon, pero more on lifestyle and mga iba-ibang sa publication, usually sa music. Tapos nag-start ako ng IT writing sa IT Update actually. Si Tony Maghirang ang editor ko. Ngayon si Tony Maghirang, columnist ko naman sa The Manila Times. So siya editor.
Nagpalit kayo.
So siya editor ko sa Philippine IT Update. Pero contributor lang ako doon, hindi naman ako considered katulad nila Ike Suarez and
Bing Ramos. Si Sharon si Sharon, si Bing, yung mga writer, si Jerry Plaza.
Sila Jerry Plaza. Talaga sila yung doon. Ako, nagko-contribute lang ako. Usually, mga parang sa 2 taon yata, 2 lang ng contribution ko. Pero doon ako na-expose sa IT Update. Tapos yun nagkaroon ako ng stint sa Manila Times. Binigyan ako ng IT column ni Arnel Patawaran na ngayon nasa The Manila Bulletin. Wala pa lang Manila Bulletin lang. Yung The Manila Times.
Tsaka, during that time, very niche pa Jing ang IT journalism.
Yes.
Kaya meron pang mga trade publications like
IT Update,
my Computer Times, Computer World.
Yes. Tawag doon, trade. Tama ka, trade publications.
PC Digest.
Nakatutok lang sila sa IT.
PC World. Diba? Sila, Emir.
Yes, sila yung mga WS people, di ba?
Si Miyag Goloy,
yes, of course. Sila Lawrence, Playa, sila
Geoff Ramos,
yung mga kaibigan.
Jennifer Malapit,
Grace, si Grace Clavecilla, si Jing yung mga kaibigan natin dyan sa mga publication.
Jing Bagalawis, no? Jing Bagalawis.
competitors yan pero magkakaibigan behind the scene lahat. Pero yung mga publication namin, mga publishers namin, competitors sila pero kami magkakaibigan kami sa beat. Dami
Actually,
na
pangasawa ko.
Yes, si Ulisa.
Ulisa. Computer World yan eh. WS Publication. So yung naging asawa ko. Di ba?
Ayun. Tama. Kaya pala galing WS. So ganun, no? Sarap mag-reminisce ng 23 years ago yun. Early 2000s. Tapos 2010. Nag-ano ka nga. Ay, sige, sorry. Go ahead.
Yes. 2010, I left Manila Bulletin. Editor ko doon si Red Samar sa Manila Bulletin sa Infotech. And then, I put up we put up yung Newsbytes. That's why 2010, tapos 22 na ngayon. So 12 years na siya.
Yes. Tapos tapos noong 2012, nag-graduate tayo sa DZDD. Doon tayo nag-start mag-graduate.
2012 ba yun?
2012 o 2013, mga ganun. Tama ba?
Okay.
Mga ganun.
Tapos, tayo na Tech Sabado sa TV, sa Radio 5, TV5. 2015. Okay.
2015. Tapos, ilang taon ka sa sa Computer Times?
4 years.
4 years,
Sa Manila Bulletin, 6 years.
6 years, oo.
Grabe,
no? Ako, ilang taon ba ako sa almost 5 years din ako sa Manila Standard. 5-6 years. Tapos another 6 years naman sa the Manila Times. So Manila Standard, tapos sa Interaction 7 years. Tapos
ang tagal pala nun?
Ang tagal, tagal din ng Interaction, 7 years din ng Interaction. Tapos binabalik ako sa 5 years na ako sa Manila Times ulit. So imagine more than 10 years na ako sa the Manila Times.
Wow. Hindi Manila Times na. Talagang di may idea.
Manila Times talaga yun. PMT yun.
Parang B, Ateneo,
yung Manila Bulletin nang wala. Manila Bulletin lang. So, ganun na yung history namin, no?
Reminiscing tayo ngayon, eh.
Oo, kasi naman, 12 years, hindi ba tatalo sa, wala pang tumatapat sa
Actually, nauna pa ang
Newsbytes, parang TechCrunch na yan, saka The Verge.
Nauna ang Newsbytes sa Rappler.
Yes, of course, Rappler 2011 eh. Kasi ang Rappler tsaka Interaction magkasabay lang. Kasi ang Interaction actually 8 years. 1 year lang late ako pumasok ng Interaction. Actually, hindi man exactly 1 year. Siguro mga ilang months lang, mga 9 months lang yata right after mga 9 months. Kasi actually, di ba, nasa TV5 na ako before nung ABC5 pa lang.
Oo, correct. Di ba nag-ano ka na? May ka na?
Oo, hanggang 2010 ako nandun. 2010, 2000, nakailang taon din ako dun 2006 din yata, 2007, mga 3 to 4 years din ako nasa ABC5. Tapos, 2010 ako natapos. Tapos, 2011, nagkaroon ng transition kasi 2009, nag-take over yung PLDT. 2009 actually, nag-take over yung PLDT. Tapos, umabot ako ng 2010. First time ko nagkaroon ng sweldo sa kanila. ng magandang sweldo sa ABC5 na talagang kumbaga mapagmamalaki mo kasi dati parang parang honorarium.
Pag sa media wala
parang honorarium lang una eh. Pero nung pumasok yung PLDT sa ABC5, nagkaroon ako. Kaso umabot lang ng 2010 kasi after 2010 nag-revamp yung mga shows. So nawala yung 10, yung The Evening News. Tapos 2011 established ni Robbie Alampay yung Interaction. Tapos siguro ilang months, 8 or 9 months after nag-join ako ng Interaction. Yun. Ikaw, paano nag-start yung kwento mo nga yung journey mo sa Newsbytes?
Tech journalist.
Hindi, Newsbytes.
Newsbytes na. So when I left
sige, maging tech journalist tapos para inspire natin mga tao dyan sa Newsbytes mo. Sige, paano nag-start yung journey mo sa tech journalism?
Well, wala akong trabaho after college.
Pero ka naman, di ba? Scholar ng bayan ka, tsaka nandun ka sa
ito
sa
kasi classmate, kasamahan ko sa UP Sa UP Baguio, ito si Joel Pinarok na isa ring kasama natin sa Cyberpress. Na mas nauna sa atin actually sa IT journalism.
Oo nga,
Si Joel Pinarok. Ano siya noon, associate editor ng computer computer Times. Oo. Wala akong trabaho, Jing. Ang ginawa ko, tandang-tanda ko to, hindi ko makakalimutan. Pumunta ako sa sa Greenbelt, National Bookstore. Sa Greenbelt. Sa Greenbelt 1, hindi ba may national doon? Yung sa may, pagpasok mo sa kanan, yun eh. National Bookstore yun eh.
Oo. Tama. Yung ngayon, yung JC Donut ngayon.
Hindi, pa rin siya. Andun pa rin yun.
Greenbelt.
Greenbelt 1. Greenbelt 1 tama yun. Greenbelt 1.
Tama. Sa baba, alam ko na.
Noon kasi, yung Computer World, Computer Times, PC Update, naka-plastic yan eh. Sa stand. So, pero kahit naka-plastic siya, binuksan ko. Tapos nakita ko, nakilala ko itong associate editor dito Si Joel Pinaro nga. So, kinuha ko yung number, hindi ko binili yung Computer Times. Tapos, kinamag ako, sabi ko, bro, pwede ba akong sulat sa'yo dyan sa kasi wala akong trabaho eh. O sige, sabi niya, sabit ka ng sample story. O gano'n, no? Tapos nung nakita niya, mukhang mahilig ka magsulat. Sige, pinag-cover niya ako isang event. Tapos, sabi niya, sige, cover ka ulit. Sabi niya gano'n. Tapos naging regular contributor ako, Jing.
Oo.
Tapos, eventually, kinuha nila akong staff writer. Okay? Tapos, after just a few months, pinai-rate sila ng Inquirer.net kasi magbubuo ng Inquirer, INQ7.
INQ7, INQ7 ganun.
Kikunin si Joel at saka si Erwin, yung senior staff writer. Erwin Oliva. So, ako lang yung natira. So, bigla akong naging associate editor. Ni Miss Prudence
Orani.
So, yun, doon na ako nag-start I stayed there for 4 years. And then I stayed, after that, I left. I went to Manila Times for 1 year.
Oo nga pala, nag-Manila Times ka kasi
kasama kami ni Joel.
Okay, ni Joel. Tama.
So Manila Times. After 1 year, I went to Manila Bulletin where I stayed for 6 years. Then after nung 2010, I left Manila Bulletin and then put up Newsbytes along with some friends like you, Mr. Jing Garcia. And si Jing is one of the tumulong sa pagbuo ng Newsbytes noong 2010. Yeah. Tapos yun nga, tuloy-tuloy na until now, yun, going strong at on its 12th year. Yan. So maraming salamat sa mga readers, sa mga sponsors, advertisers. Ayan, kasi wala sa kanila, Jing, siyempre. They won't survive this long.
Hindi, no? Oo nga, no? Hindi biro yung 12 years, pare. Talagang sabihin nun, naka more than 10 years ka na. A decade na yun, eh.
Oo. Kumbaga, yung anak ko nga, 10 years old pa lang, eh. Mas matanda pa yung Newsbytes, eh.
Mas matanda pa yung Newsbytes, eh.
Oo. Yan. So, okay. Jing, ano natin? Yung gimmick natin dito every
Yes, okay. Alam naman natin, tuwing nakikinig kayo ng Tech Sabado sa ating Facebook Live o sa ating YouTube channel, may gimmick kami dito every week. Post nyo lang po ang inyong mga internet speed sa ating mga comment section kung mabilis man ito o mabagal. So, i-post nyo po, base po ito para malaman po natin ang inyong internet speed base po sa binabayaran nyo buwan-buwan. Wala po tayong pakialam kung sinong ISP ninyo o yung tinatawag na internet service provider. Tingnan natin kung naibabato nga nila yung tamang speed sa yung kanilang mga service areas tulad po ng PLDT, Smart, Globe, ano pa, Planet, Streamtech, Red, Converge. Basta post nyo po yung mga nila, mga kasalanan nila sa inyo pagdating po sa internet. Kung meron man silang kasalanan sa inyo o may pagkakautang po sa speed na binibigay nila sa inyo. Post nyo lang po yan para po makita din nila. Nanonood po yung mga yan at malaman po at ma-identify po kung ano yung mga problematic na area kung meron man, no? So, at syempre matutuwa din sila pag nakita nila na tama po yung speed na binibigay nila o sobra-sobra pa, tulad po na hindi naman nila service area, pero tulad po ng sinasabi natin dito, katulad ni 7 Hosting PH na nasa Singapore po, na pinagbabawal na po namin mag-post ng kanyang internet speed. Kasi sabi ko nga, lalagyan po natin ng cap hanggang 500 Mbps lang po ang pwedeng i-post dito. Kung mas mabilis po sa 500 Mbps ang inyong internet speed, lagyan nyo na lang po ng plus plus. Ito naman si Anton, talagang 716 Mbps Singtel. May ano ba? Sa mga nakikinig sa atin, meron na bang local na hindi nagtatrabaho sa telco na merong more than 500 Mbps ka naman?
Nakita ko kanina si Bam Amor nag-post.
Anong ano niya? Anong speed?
503.
Wow.
Parang nagkaroon yata siya ng free boost PLDT.
PLDT 503 binigay sa kanya.
siguro,
Sara All.
Sara All.
Sara, hello Sara All.
Si Sara Riodica. Azucena, Sara Azucena.
Yes. Sara All yan dapat. Yan, sabi, bawal na ba sa July po uwi ako dyan. Naku, wag mo na i-post pag uwi ka dito sa July, baka mapaya ka lang. Sabi niya uwi daw siya ng July sa yan. Yung panahon yan, uso ng MIRC at YM Messenger. Yan nga yung panahon namin ni Melvin.
Ano ba yung service provider sa Singapore ni Anton mo?
Singtel.
Okay.
Singapore Telecom ba yun? Tama, Singapore. Yan po ang partner po ng Globe Telecom na hindi rin po makapagbigay ng ganyang kalaking speed ngayon.
May banat ka pang ganun, ha?
Singtel di ba? Singtel. Okay.
Okay, batiin mo na natin yung ibang mga suki natin. Si Alex Fuentes na nakikinig from, alam ko, saan ba to si Alex? Alam ko, Bacolod City to From the City of Smiles, Bacolod City. Yeah. Si RJ Espinosa, isa sa dalawang fans natin yan sa Davao. Good evening, sabi niya. Watching FB Live. Nakikinig sa inyo through FB dito sa Padada, Davao del Sur. Ang lupit nito ni RJ, yan to sa PisoNet, wireless, Wi-Fi. Tapos nakikinig siya sa atin. Si Josa Matet, good evening sa iyo, Josa.
Pagaling ka, Josa. May ano yan may sakit yan may
Sabi ni Seven Hosting ni Anton Man, akala ko birthday siguro ng Newsbytes.
Birthday ng Newsbytes.
716 Mbps, Singtel, no? Si Anton mo nang iinis nangaano nangaano ka
Nangaano yan Madalas bang yan 7. Bagay pag uwi mo dito yan karma. Mali, dapat ito. Mali. Pag uwi niyan dito, hindi aabot ng 20 Mbps ang kanyang speed.
Ayun, of course, si Michael Lance ang ating suki. Number 1 suki, ito si Michael Lance, no? Sabi niya, 47 Mbps PLDT home fiber from
pwede na.
Pwede na.
Pero nag-ano siya, nag-100 yan dati pag nagpo-post siya.
Pero ang tagal niya rin nagka-problema yung di ba?
Ilang buwan din yun.
2 to
3 months yata niya inantay bago siya makabalik ng mga ganyan level. Pero at least bumalik na. Kumusta naman?
Bawal na ba? Sa July po, uwi ako.
Sabi nga ni Anto, uwi daw siya dito.
Saan po yung message ni Bama Mar? Kilala ko yun. Sabi niya. Doon sa niya, sa Facebook page niya. Sa wall niya. Doon siya nag-ano. Si Atty. Martin Thompson, yun. Ang ating, civil society public interest lawyer.
Ito yung mga palaban natin ng mga kaibigan sa civil society pagdating po sa telecommunications.
bilib ako dito kay Atty. Marnie. Talagang ano to, yung every basta yung maasahan mo to sa every ICT related na
Mga issues, no?
issues, so talagang matindi yung niya, yung
Advocacy. Parang ako nawala ako. Dito. Si Atty. Nawala. Okay. Yan. 12 years kasi ng pasok natin si Raymund. Tinulak eh. Welcome, Raymund Tribdino. Nawala ka, Atty. Pasok ko muna si Raymund.
Atty. Ginamit namin yung opportunity. Ginamit namin yung opportunity, sumingit ako.
Oo nga, nawala ako.
Welcome, Raymund Tribdino ng Malaya Business Insight. Also, host po ng Today is Tuesday.
Yan.
Maraming salamat kay Ludi ha.
Hoy.
Kasi wala ako dahil graduate ang akin anak.
Ay, congratulations kay Caitlin.
Grade 12, college na.
Dalawang congratulations. Oy, attorney, nabasa mo ba yung post ko? Doon sa congratulations ko sa'yo, di ba? Tama naman yung sinabi ko, di ba? Dahil sa'yo, lumagana pang plagiarism dahil sa'yo, dahil sa pinagkokopyahan ka ng malalaking network, di ba?
Pero hindi na-acknowledge dahil mali tayo eh. Ayun ang problema, no?
Pero yan attorney, naisip ko yan. Yan ay case study para sa vlogging community. Kasi kung lahat ng vloggers ay nasa standard at quality ng Newsbytes, dapat i-accredit. Diba?
Para doon sa Malacanang, no?
Dapat di ba? Dapat ganun yung quality ng if the quality of the output at saka yung ng pag-verify ng story tsaka pagpulot at paghanap ng story ganun. I-accredit na natin lahat.
Ito Tribs, meron na ba silang parameters as to how they will accredit the vloggers?
Wala pa yata. Maglalabas pero
wala pa.
Wala pa.
Pero magagaranti ko sa mga tao nakikinig sa atin, no? Igagaranti ko sa inyo pag nagkaroon po ng accreditation kasama po Newsbytes at saka Tech Sabado.
Tama.
Kahit hindi kami vloggers.
Kasi attorney, ang alam ko lang, nagkaroon ng isang nagbuo ng isang Facebook group ang pangalan Movement for Media Reform, na ang purpose daw ay para mag-gather or magkaroon ng I forgot the objective. Tapos immediately after that, nagkaroon ng isang grupo na parang United Vloggers of the Philippines. Parang ganon, isa na namang FB group. My question to them, kasi sumama ako dun sa grupo na yun, ang question ko lang sa kanila, dun sa MMR, bakit parang walang media? Tapos yung doon naman sa isa is, kailangan merong code of ethics o whatever, di ba? Kung ano man yung gagawin nila dun sa kung payak ang kanilang layunin para doon, dapat may mga standards na kailangan sundin, di ba? Yun.
Pero as of now,
sa tanong mo, wala pa. Wala pa.
Siyempre, ano pa yan eh. Actually, no, hindi sila makakakilos kasi hindi pa sila nakaupo. Actually. Paupuin muna natin yung mga tao bago natin singilin. Di ba? Paupuin muna natin sila. So, for now, ganito pa lang.
Yan. Marami dito sa amin ngayon yan. Crickets.
Si Marnie Thompson, sa sa Mega Plaza pala, Ortigas. Diba? Medyo condo yan, alam ko eh. Sa tapat ng yung ginagawang Westin service apartments dyan sa yung dating Medical City. Westin yun
yung ginagawa ng bago ngayon, laki nun malaki yung Westin, no?
Pero di malit lang yung area, yung na yun, yung lote na yun. For a hotel. Pero pwede na kasi yung dating lote ng
Nung
Medical City.
Medical City
Oo.
doon.
Ang
Tabi
harap
ng
nun, yung
tabi ng San Miguel.
Oo, tsaka ng dati kong eskwela, Lourdes School.
Oo. Tabi ng San Miguel.
Tama, Lourdes School.
In
Di ba
between
Lourdes ka rin, Jing?
QC.
QC.
Mm.
Oo. Mga boys ng Lourdes boys pala kayo, ha?
Retiro boy ako. Retiro.
Retiro boy. Oo nga, Lourdes Retiro. Tapos yung STC, yung malapit din sa, di ba? Sa Lourdes.
Yes. Yun ang parang sister school doon. Yun,
sister
St.
school pala
Teresa.
ng
St.
Teresa. Ayun, okay. Yeah, ayun. Si Marnie, sa Mega Plaza si Marnie. Good evening sa iyo, Atty. Marnie. Si Josa Matet, sabi niya, thanks po, ingat din po sa lahat at medyo pabago-bago rin po ang panahon.
Ano kasi,
mainit, malamig,
in between tayo ng summer and in between na kasi tayo ng summer tsaka tag-ulan.
Pero sabi ng Pag-asa,
Hindi
tag-ulan
pa.
na.
Tagulan na.
Nung nag-uulan dati, yun na raw start pero mainit na ulit.
Mainit pa rin ulit. Pero ano pa rin, kasi kumbaga ipit pa rin di ba? Naiipit pa rin ng itag-init tsaka na.
Magandang gabi, Tito Tribs. Ayun, special mention kanina ni Michael Lance sa Tito Tribs.
Yep.
Sabi niya, si Tito Tribs, sabi niya si 56 Mbps, 60 Mbps upload sa PLDT. Not bad, no, Tito Tribs, no?
Oo.
Okay naman.
Not bad yan. Kaya nga nakapasok siya agad.
Ako yung medyo naputol kanina.
Oo.
Ayun, so, may gusto kong banggitin na topic na ano yun eh. Ano nga ba yun? Nakalimutan ko na. Anyway, sige, ano bang pwede nating papyaw?
Bago natin pasok yung guest natin maya-maya. Kasi nga, importante, maganda rin lang pag-usapan natin mga internet speed kasi kailangan natin yung mga panahon ngayon. Dahil yung topic natin mamaya is about hybrid, yung mga sa trabaho, no? Kasi parang ngayon kini-question pa nga ng ibang na pwede bang hybrid, pwede bang Imagine, attorney, yung laki ng kita ng BPO na okay lang sa kanila mawala yung tax perks.
Sobrang laki, no?
Oo, sabihin doon, laki pala na kinikita nila, no? Okay lang mawala yung tax perks, wag lang mawala yung business nila.
Oo.
Diba?
Hindi, they're willing to forgo basta basta lang may continue pa rin yung work from home ng mga empleyado nila.
Kasi kung hindi, mawawalan din yung business eh. Kung hindi pa kung kunyari pipilitin mo empleyado na magtrabaho with the hindi yung situation ng pandemic I'm not talking about just the pandemic, yung situation ng transportation ngayon. In dire straits tayo ngayon when it comes to transportation, yung public transportation, doon tayo may issue. Mas may issue yan kaysa sa pandemic kasi yung pandemic pwede mong iwasan eh. Pwede kang hindi ka pumasok, kaso kung hindi ka pumasok, hindi ka lumabas, hindi ka makapagtrabaho. Ang problema, di ba? Kaya importante yung hybrid sa yung transportation, public transportation ngayon.
Si Danny Escala sabi niya, Pax et Bonum, QC ako. Ano yung Pax et Bonum? Alam ko yung Pax, peace and ano yun? Ano yung Bonum? Latin?
QC. QC, no? Pax et Bonum. Tama.
Ano yung sabihin ng Bonum? Ayun. Well, inaalala ko na pala yung...
Sige.
Yun nga yung Taxumo, yung online filing platform. They resume their yung annual report nila about the state of online tax, yung tax profiles ng mga tao. And one very prominent result nung report na yun is that there is indeed a great resignation na nangyayari after the pandemic. Ano tong great resignation na to? Yung mga tao, they are quitting their jobs. Kasi mas gusto na nila na nasa bahay or flexible, hybrid, na kapag hindi pinagbigyan, they are resigning from their jobs.
Yes, yun na nga rin yung nangyayari sa BPO nga eh. Mauubusan sila empleyado pag hindi sila pinayagan na mag-hybrid eh.
Kaya nga, sabi mo, tama ka, Jing, kahit kahit tanggalin na yung ano nila, yung
Yung
incentives.
tax nila
Oh,
sa EPSA, di
Oo.
ba?
PESA.
PESA, sorry.
PESA.
Oo.
They are still willing to to pay the tax,
Mm.
no? Basta lang makapagtrabaho.
At makunti
Ah,
business nila.
Oo.
Ibig sabihin nun, kasi pag siyempre pag wala kang empleyado, pull out yung mga clients, di ba? Kasi kasi yung BPO naman hindi naman may mga kliyente din yung mga yan eh. Hahanap ng iba yung mga kliyente nila, di ba? Abroad. Ano lang naman, outsourced kasi yung mga yan eh. Kaya sila hindi naman HP. Hindi naman HP yung ano diyan eh. Yung BPO hindi man HP. Naka-outsource sa kanila ang HP or anuman multinational brand. So, they can just pull out kung hindi makapag-deliver yung BPO na yun, mga local BPO.
Doon sa tax report na ng Taxumo, in-emphasize din noon yung rise ng independent workers. Kasi nga nag-resign na sila eh. So they are now doing their work remotely, doing consulting,
Yes.
virtual work through
if they can work virtually, they'll do it. Rather than hindi na sila makipagsabayan sa rat race sa city. Yun ang even if this is not unique to the Philippines, but it's happening globally. Kasi kahit in the US meron the great resignation.
Dahil nga nakita nung pandemic, pwede naman pala mag-work na remote Tapos lalo pa ngayon ang mahal-mahal ng gasolina, traffic, 'di ba? There's no incentive to go to the office, 'di ba?
Yes. Which is happening now, kaya namomroblema yung California, 'di ba? Yung sobrang taas ng kasi standard of living sa Silicon Valley. Na-realize nila hindi naman kailangan pala ako magtrabaho diyan sa Silicon Valley. I can work in another state, in another state, 'di ba? Na mas murang standard of living. Pwede kong gawin. So ganun din nangyayari sa atin. Yung people who can actually work like me, who can actually work from Cavite or Bulacan, na hindi na kailangan gumastos pa ng 150 pesos na frappe tuwing hapon, di ba? Di ba gagawa ka na lang dito ng ng fruit juice mo dahil may naglalako ng prutas sa labas ng ng gate.
Like what we are doing, Jing. Di ba?
Yes.
Nasa iba-ibang lugar tayo, si Tito Trips nasa San Pablo, ako nasa Cainta, ikaw nasa Tagaytay, pero we are doing this show.
Yes. Diba? Pwede naman pala eh. Actually, I think that's the ang tawag mo doon, also the great ang tawag mo doon yung forgot that English word.
Shift.
Pwede the great shift. The great paradigm shift yung perspective natin sa mindset natin.
Mindset natin.
So, and I think it's just one of those I don't know if I can say it, one of those good things na brought by the pandemic. Anyway, pero sige, go, sorry.
No, it's okay, go.
Hindi, okay lang. Kasi segue na sana ako. May sabihin ka pa.
Si Atty. Martin Thompson sabi niya, yung asawa ko, kasapi ng Great Resignation Movement na yan. Kahapon nag-resign. Kahapon lang. Pahabol ni Benji Onabia, pakitingin daw po yung dito dyan daw sa Cebu, bumabagal daw internet pag naglalaro siya ng ML.
Baka baka biglang dumadami.
Baka masyadong intensive yung ML kasi gaming yan Mobile Legends.
We'll never know. Hindi, baka pinapahaba lang yung game time mo para mag-load ka. Ay, walang ganun. Anyway, sige, pag-usapan natin yung mga hybrid, continue natin, usapan natin kasi maganda nga, pag-usapan natin yung hybrid work dahil nagkaroon nga ng na ito nga yung word nga na tama nga yung word na yung paradigm shift na bigla one of the I think the better better things that the pandemic brought to this world, if I can say that, dahil alam naman natin yung devastation. Actually, talagang devastated ang ano no, ang mundo. Especially in 2020 when the first lockdown, the global lockdown, ang pinakamasakit diyan, I think bumabawi sila doon sa 2-3 years nilang nawalan ng ano, bumabawi itong mga neoliberal sa atin eh. Kaya tataas ng mga presyo ngayon ng mga bilihin sa ano, ewan ko ano nangyayari o hindi ko lang alam kung nag-overheat ang economy dahil hindi gumagastos yung tao for 3 years. Ang daming pera kasi. Attorney, napansin mo ba na kahit na compare nung 60 pesos ang gasolina noon, nabawasan ng sasakyan sa kalye. Pero ngayon, napansin nyo ba, 90 pesos ang gasolina, ang sobrang traffic pa rin sa Metro Manila. Nasa labas pa rin ng mga tao, hindi ko maintindihan ano ba nangyayari diyan. Anyway,
Correct.
sige, attorney, segue tayo sa ating sa ating guest tonight.
Oo.
Dahil maganda usapan natin tong hybrid work.
Correct, oo. Naku, no ba yan? Na ano yung ano niya, let me take some of my notes. Sorry about that. Ayun,
Okay, request ko kami tonight that we will be talking about more about yung hybrid work and how you can do it easily with, I'm sure, with certain apps and software and of course hardware na rin. Nahuli ako nagkakamot. Sige.
Okay. We'd like to introduce our tonight's guest, Mr. Vet Watson. Siya po ang Modern Work and Security Business Lead ng Microsoft Philippines. Siya rin po ang spokesperson for hybrid work. Okay, good evening, Vet. Are you there?
Yes, good evening, Attorney. Jing, Raymund.
Yes.
Thank you for having me.
Yes.
Yun. So, naku, iPhone 12 yung lumalabas dun sa
back there.
Vet, can you introduce yourself a little bit sa audience natin then before we go to
Sige, thank you, Attorney. So my name is Vet Watson, everyone. I am the Modern Work and Security Business Lead. That's the long version of essentially just saying I manage the Microsoft 365 business. So kung naisip niyo, Office, Windows, Microsoft Teams, medyo yung mga end-user solutions namin for productivity, as well as our security solutions, and then our devices, so like Microsoft Surface. So that's what I manage in the Philippines in particular. And I'm happy to be here. Maraming salamat sa inyong lahat for joining us this evening.
Ang ganda nung name ng designation mo. Modern
Modern work.
Modern work. Talagang perfect na sa hybrid work. Dapat talaga.
Modern work.
It's not a new position. Parang ngayon ko na narinig siya eh.
No, it's been there for a while.
Ganun ba?
I think Tito Jing, yung modern work na yan, ehemplo ako niyan when I started working in business world as a correspondent. Hindi pa uso yung salitang telecommuting. Ginagawa ko na yan.
Oh, yes.
Because I was assigned in the Calabarzon region. I was only required to report once a week sa office. In fact, yung once a week na yun, naging twice a month lang eh. Kasi, the office gave me binigyan ako ng computer, Mac Plus pa nung una, tapos naging Mac SE, tapos binigyan ako ng Apple Take na digital camera, so at abanting-abanti na yung business world nung araw, di ba? So with that, I was already telecommuting, sending my stories, but I had to get home muna kasi I only had the facility to send it when I'm at home. Parang yun ang nakikita kong malaking difference between telecommuting and hybrid work kasi yung hybrid work ngayon, talagang kahit saan ka, pwede. Tama ba yun, Vet? Is that correct?
Yes, that's right. That's right. And sobrang exciting kasi when you guys mentioned earlier some of these trends, these challenges, Jing, you mentioned earlier, is it even worth it to commute? There has to be an incentive to commute all the way to the office. And that's one of the things we've actually studied, So we have this called Work Trend Index report. In fact, before hybrid work was even the topic, it's an annual report that we publish so that business leaders, everybody that wants to understand how does Microsoft see how people work in general, right? And what are we seeing from a trends perspective onwards? Yun yung publish namin. And particularly for our 2022 report, it was a lot about kung ano yung top of mind ngayon around hybrid work, which is how do we make this work for our organization, right? Because apparently what we're seeing is that it's here to stay, right? For the last 2 years, to your point, it worked. So why will I have to come back to the office? How do we make this work? And most business leaders today are thinking about the balance of our employees expect us to give that flexibility, pero kailangan namin mag-deliver, right? We still need to run the business. We need to be profitable. And that balancing act is in the middle of an unpredictable economy and essentially an unpredictable world that we live in, diba? So it's a balancing act. But what's interesting about this study, and I can share more in a bit, but I have 3 takeaways from it. And by the way, it's available online. And then we also have some recommendations for it. Pero it's such an interesting report. And it's available online for everybody that wants to find it. Just search for Microsoft Work Trend Index report and download the 2022 version. It's super insightful.
Pero Vet, before we go forward, no, could you define how businesses now define hybrid?
That's the thing. It's interesting because there's different perceptions of hybrid work. And truth be told, I don't think any organization, even Microsoft, has fully established ano ba talaga yung hybrid work, right? We have some guiding principles around it that I'll talk about later. But so far, I've seen different perspectives. Some, ang approach nila, hybrid kami. Sige po, how are you on hybrid? Naka-shifting kami. So we have Team A, Team B, MWF, TTHS. And then I have conversations with other large organizations in the Philippines. Naka-hybrid din kami. Kami naman, naka-digital. We allow everybody to work from home when they want to. If they want to come to the office, they can. Right? And so others say, well, no, we're not hybrid at all. Everybody has to come back to the office. And so iba-iba. We're noticing na medyo iba pa yung approach. So we have a concept behind it from a Microsoft standpoint. But to your question, mukhang iba-iba pa ang approach natin for it.
But as of now, sabi mo, there's an ongoing parang balancing act. So right now, the right approach is hybrid. Is that what you're saying?
Absolutely. We firmly believe that hybrid is the way to go moving forward. But it doesn't necessarily mean that there's a concrete parang step-by-step process to it. It's gonna be a bit different, organization by organization, and even within Microsoft, we embrace hybrid, but that doesn't necessarily mean our data center engineers are working from home when they have to be in our data centers, as opposed to sellers and marketing and finance. So we have a concept behind it, pero yun, it really isn't a set of tools. But hybrid in itself as a concept, we believe is here to stay.
Pero Vet, di ba yung work from home idea, this was already established even before the pandemic. Was there a big difference? Was there a difference na yun nga nagkaroon ng pandemic then suddenly everything changed sa landscape? Was there, ano bang nakita mo naging difference ng hybrid noon saka hybrid ngayon?
That's true. I think with the past couple of years, no, and I think it will be answered by, I think, the 3 points that my takeaways are for the report. No, so I'll jump into that because they directly answer your question.
Okay.
So I think from the report, right, 3 key takeaways. Number 1, employees have a new worth it equation. Is my job worth it? Is everything I'm doing for this company worth it? Right. So this is one of the key changes. No, from the last 2 years, I realized, and people are starting to realize na I can be productive. I can be a really good employee for my company and I can also have time for my family and my personal interests, and maybe even for health and wellness moving forward. No, in fact, from that study, and by the way, this study we do globally, but some of the insights I'll share include both the global average numbers and the Philippine numbers, right? So in this particular case, right, employees have a new worth it equation. It says from the report, it says that 53% are more likely to prioritize health and well-being over work than before the pandemic. 53%. They care about their well-being more than their work. And I think it was even touched on kanina, people are resigning because they're worried. They're worried about all the travel that they have to do. But what's even interesting from this report is that for the Philippines, it's actually 67%. It's 14 points higher. It's saying that Filipinos are now thinking, does this company care about its employees' well-being? What's the culture in this organization? Do they care about me enough that they will allow flexibility if talagang we have to work from home from a safety standpoint, from a health standpoint? And so I think this whole great resignation that was even mentioned earlier is really pushed by this, that realization. Right? So that's number one. Number two, it's also interesting because the managers now in the middle feel wedged, na they're in the middle of leadership and what the leadership wants, and then the employee expectations. I can do my job. In fact, in the study, it also shows 83% of Filipino workers are saying, I was productive or even more productive compared to a year ago now that you've allowed us to work from home. And that 83 number is actually 2 points higher than the global average of 81%. On the opposing side, it's saying that 50% of leaders are planning to bring everybody full-time in person in the year ahead. 50% globally, but 69% in the Philippines. Majority of leaders are saying, now we're going to bring back everybody to the office. So the managers being in the middle, right, they're the drivers of culture. So if the organization's banner, mission and vision on their website is saying, we care about our employees, and our manager is telling me, balik ka sa office. We have to go every day back to the office, even if it's still risky, even if the gas prices are up high, then there's this push and pull, right? And lastly, number three, leaders, I think this was touched on a bit earlier, leaders must make the office worth the commute, right? They really have to rethink the purpose of the office now. Is it really just for people to come to the office, sit in front of their desk like this, and just do my job in front of my computer for like 8 hours straight, which I could have done at home?
Home, yes.
Correct.
Yeah.
And so there's this whole redesign that's happening, and it's interesting.
So the thing, parang nakikita ko rito si Elon Musk, hindi nabasa siguro yung work, yung work trend index na yan, dapat basahin.
Hindi kasi yung kay Elon, Ep.73, more on the manufacturing side Sa
exactly.
Tesla,
Yes,
diba?
yes.
Hindi mo pwede gawin yung Tesla sa loob ng bahay mo
that's what yun yung pupuntahan kong tanong. Kasi there are countries, like for example, Japan. Ang bagal ng take-up ng Japan sa hybrid work. I have friends there, because I worked in a car company there for a while, di ba? So nakikita ko, nagpo-post sila, nasa trabaho sila in the middle of the pandemic, because in Japan, ang coronavirus only affected like 700,000 and there were only about 13,000 deaths. So what the government did was to give the option of going to work para hindi daw maapektuhan yung economy, and giving the workers the option to stay at home. Pero what happened was that, because you know how the Japanese economy is, everybody lives outside of Tokyo, and because their public transport is so efficient, the Tokyo population is different in the day and versus the night, di ba? And a lot of Japanese employees feel that moving out of their houses, yung mga malilit nilang mga apartments and so on, and going to the city is a sort of escape kasi
Oo.
medyo masikip di ba?
Incentive sa kanila.
Right?
Mga-
Incentive sa kanila magbiyahe, di ba?
Oo.
So was this in the work trend index, were countries like Japan, there were also a few European countries na parang ang bagal nung take up nung or acceptance pala ng workers ng work from home, ng hybrid, di ba?
So it's an interesting perspective. In fact, I haven't had the pleasure of actually jumping in to look at the other numbers, so medyo biased. I looked at the global average and then I looked at the Philippines numbers. It'll be interesting for me to look on the other numbers that were lower than global average. But I assume there are. I think I noticed when I was reviewing the numbers, there were some countries where they were slightly lower than global average from an adoption standpoint, from a drive to adopt hybrid work standpoint. But I guess fundamentally, I think, Raymond, it goes back to really what is good for the employees, right? So in the end of the day, if for the employees, there is a benefit to work from home, right? And it balances that with their ability to deliver for the business, right? Then let's consider why not. I mean, there's also a consideration of talent, right? We have talent all over the country, and if we limit our choices to whoever is based out of Manila, right? Then sayang, we have, for example, our CFO now that's based out of outside Luzon even. If there are gatherings, he would actually fly over. So there are opportunities as well to embracing hybrid work. But one of the fundamental principles of hybrid work is to allow flexibility. It doesn't have to be forced. And I think that was mentioned in what you said earlier about Japan, that the government offered flexibility, the options. And if for the employees, it meant that it was good for them to go over to their offices, that's great. But I think there are a lot of considerations right now, and the key there for hybrid work for us is really flexibility.
Yeah, that's true.
Pero ngayon, paano na-identify kung sino ang pwede mag-work from home? Kasi di ba, baka isipin, lugi naman siya at parating tatrabaho sa bahay. Ako, pwede naman magtrabaho pero ayaw kong patabahuin sa bahay. paano na ano yan? Paano na-identify ng mga businesses yun?
That's a good question.
I'm sure yung janitor hindi talaga pwede. Hindi bahay dyan lang malinis parate.
No, that's true. That's true. So there are considerations for hybrid work, right? And like I said, it's about flexibility. But the reality is, hybrid work is really about enabling flexibility to deliver for employees to deliver their best work. And what that means is that if you are, let's say, for example, let's take frontline workers, right? I don't expect bank tellers, the crew for airlines, right? The manufacturing employees that are really out there in the plants, we don't expect them to work from home some of the times, right? But where we see adoption in this area is around, again, the concept of hybrid on flexibility. So what does that mean? Yes, they may be coming to to their workplaces every day, but because companies are embracing digitization, which is one of the concepts I'll touch later as I talk about our recommendations for hybrid work. But because organizations embrace digitizations, there are aspects of my work where I don't have to go walk into an office physically. So I may be, let's say, for example, crew for a particular airline. If I had to apply for my vacation leave, do I really need to walk over to the head office, go into the HR office, file a paper just to say, I want to take leave for some specific date? Right? So that's also part of the embracing hybrid work, which is, it's not necessarily, again, about working from home versus working from the office. It's allowing that flexibility. And if you empower your frontline workers, even if they're always on site, but you give them the benefit of digitizing some of their processes, that lessens and that allows flexibility still.
Yun, Yvette, it's interesting to note na yung mindset ng ng mga workers, like what you said, yung mas they put premium, they put their the well-being first now compared to the pre-pandemic period, no? So and one of those shift yung mental health. Kasi
Yes.
parang ngayon mas yung mga tao ngayon parang mas aware na sila sa nila mental health di ba? Situation nila. So it's a good development kasi maraming taong aware of the need to maintain or to improve your state of mental health.
That's true, attorney. Yes, absolutely. A lot of conversations I've been having lately with people officers, chief people officers, or HR leaders have been around that day. So before the pandemic, they were focused on employee skilling, delivering the requirements of the employees, HR processes, benefits, processing benefits, and now their top of mind is how do we enable employee wellness and employee well-being, and that's one of the pillars. And I think this is, I guess, a good segue to what are our recommendations as Microsoft pagdating sa hybrid work, right? So, and one of that is definitely around wellness. So, why do we think that embracing flexibility is the way to go, right? It's because of this, what we call hybrid paradox, right? Hybrid work paradox in the sense that, according to our study, 73% said that they want flexible remote options to stay. But 67% from that same group said that they want more in-person work collaboration post the pandemic. So yes, we want to be able to work from home when we can, or work from anywhere when we can, but we're still human beings, and we still need that social interaction. If we do need to brainstorm, ideally we brainstorm in person, right? As much as we can. If we can still have those water cooler conversations, that's part of the culture that organizations need, the sharing of best practices. And sometimes the weirdest places like the pantry have to happen. No? So embracing flexibility while ensuring that those two happen, that we can deliver both of them for organization and key. And so our recommendations for organizations, if you're thinking about sa ating mga manonood tonight, no, if you're thinking about how do we do this, how do we do hybrid work, we think about three things. Our recommended operating model for hybrid work is composed of three pillars: people, places, and processes. Okay, let me break that down a bit. When I say people, you have to before you even invest in the technologies that will make hybrid work possible, the fundamental element is culture, right? Because you can have all of the technologies that even Microsoft or any of the other cloud companies can offer. If your culture does not support hybrid work, there's going to be a lot of distrust. A lot of organizations I've talked to, leaders that I've talked to, their common worry is that pag pinayagan ko magtrabaho sa bahay, baka hindi magtrabaho eh. So there has to be a culture of trust, right? And when you embrace a culture of trust, you can also elevate well-being, right? And part of that includes, so as a culture, our recommendation is that you need to empower teams. You need to decentralize, especially for large organizations, decentralize decision-making on hybrid. And this also goes back to the question earlier around how do we know who works from home and who works remotely, right? And we believe that when you decentralize the decision, if there's no one size fits all at the top that says everybody MWF and TTH as model tayo, instead you give the opportunity for the managers to say, no, for our particular team, we're gonna have to do this specific model because we're on the manufacturing plant, as opposed to this particular sales team, all of you are going to be out there selling every day, so we're going to do this model, right? And so that culture recommendation that we recommend around decentralizing decision making is a component of hybrid work. And once you have that in place, once you have culture in place, then you also have technology to support that, right? So as an example, one of the investments that we've been making from a technology standpoint is something called Microsoft Viva. I know we're techie folks in this call, so I imagine There's a lot of interest around this lately. So Microsoft Viva is our employee experience platform. It runs on top of the familiar Microsoft Teams. So some of the largest organizations in the country are actually running Office 365, and with that, Microsoft Teams for their collaboration. Microsoft Viva runs on top of that. And what we've designed is a platform that covers all of those key aspects. Wellness, right? Imagine if your tool, the same tool you use for chat, the same tool you use for meetings or collaboration, also provides you some insights about how your work-life balance is, right? Because it's the same tool you use for work, it knows that if you've established na Saturday, Sunday are not my work days, and I'm working throughout that times, at the end of the month, I see my wellness report saying, 5 out of the how many weekends in a month, you actually started work. You were actually working on your day offs, right? Because these tools are built into the tools that you use for work, it can give you insights without having you manually say, I work, because it's almost impossible, especially for surveys, right? Organizations want to know, we're hearing that, our employees are experiencing burnout, but do we have signals? Do we have data signals? Okay, let's run a poll. Let's run a survey. Let's find out. Most people can't accurately answer that. Maybe they say yes, maybe they say no. But if you have digital signals that say, no, because they're using Outlook for email, they're using Teams for meetings, you can actually get concrete digital signals from a dashboard as an organization that says, okay, this is happening. People are working after working hours, right? And same platform allows for learning. So a component of that Viva Learning is to allow learning from anywhere. And all these digital tools, as well as goals and priorities, we're also baking in to our platforms, because we firmly believe that, allowing and embracing employee experience, their wellness, their understanding of the goals and priorities and how they are a part of the bigger picture of the organization, their learning, their growth, their skilling, that platform has to be visible to employees as well, right? So there's a single platform for that. So that's people. Sorry, before I jump into places, any thoughts, any questions there?
No, so okay, go ahead.
Thanks, attorney. All right. And then of course places, right? So those are some key tips on people. On places, I mentioned this a bit earlier. Rethink about the role of the office, right? It's social collaboration is still critical. Face-to-face is still key once in a while, especially when needed. There are opportunities for collaboration has to happen in a meeting room with a large whiteboard, and all those ideas just come up, right? It's still key. So there is a role for the office, but finding that balance is going to be key. So a lot of organizations nowadays are rethinking. So there has to be areas where people can focus, focus places, right? There has to be areas where there's smaller areas for collaboration. And then as you think about your larger meeting rooms, do they embrace hybrid? And when we think about hybrid and hybrid meeting rooms, right? If I walk into your conference room today, most likely our teams, right? We've done a lot of video meetings in the past, video conferencing meetings in the past. Are you going to transition fully to on-site and just have no option for remote attendees to join virtually? Ideally, each meeting, even if they're happening in a conference room, is a hybrid meeting so that attendees have an option to join remotely. And one of our investments there is around ensuring, and this is part of our Teams Rooms offers, right? So Microsoft Teams Rooms, when we equip a meeting room with the right technologies, it allows for people that are joining remotely not feel that they're left behind. Diba? And yung feeling na papasok ko sa conference room and then all of you are meeting, but some of them are actually joining remote, and it's like they're not there kasi hindi sila nakikita, right? Maybe some USB is plugged into a laptop, naririnig sila potentially, but because we don't see them, because there's no proper conferencing tool in the room, sometimes we don't even ask them, may questions. Tinanong na natin lahat ng tao sa conference room, may questions ba kayo? But the people that are virtual aren't included, and vice versa. when I'm remote, like potentially right now, right? And then maybe somebody I'm having a meeting with is in a meeting room and around 5 sila doon. There's just one camera na nakatutok doon. I won't see their facial expressions from one camera. I will see 5 people around a large meeting room, and I'll miss out on the insights of emotions, diba? And that's critical part of the meeting. Do people agree with what you're talking about? And if you can't see, right, then you're also missing out on that component. And so some of the investments we've made is, for example, these advanced technologies that we're working with to allow, with one single camera in the room, boxing the people's faces, so that when I see them from this view, right now I'm just seeing a bunch of boxes of who I'm talking to. I can see them individually and I can see their reactions. Kahit na technically they're actually in just one room and isang camera, right? So that's on places. So and then it's not just, again, about the meeting rooms, about the technologies, kasama dun yung culture, right? And so one of the things that we're sharing with our customers is around, you also have to embrace a hybrid meeting etiquette, right? So even the smallest things that people feel that they're included. Okay, everybody that's remote, may questions ba kayo? Right? So there's a culture perspective and then there's a technology perspective that helps it. And then finally, processes. So people, places, and processes. As we think about processes, and I gave an example earlier of the frontline workers, diba? They don't necessarily have to work from home because their job just doesn't allow them to work from home. But when organizations embrace digitizations, allow even their frontline workers to have tools, it's amazing how 80% of the global workforce are frontline workers, and we don't give them digital tools today. We have, bank tellers, we have crew that are generally not given their own accounts within their organization. They're not given their own username and passwords. Why? When they're supposedly the face of the organization, right? And so moving forward, where we believe that inclusive growth of an organization includes not just giving the right tools to the information workers, but also to the frontline workers so that they can be equipped, right? So that we can see digitization on their end so that they can deliver the best experiences to your customers. Because in the end of the day, they're the face of your organization. When I walk into a branch, I get the experience of your brand from your frontline workers. The experience of your products I get from the people in your manufacturing, and when they deliver well, I get the best services or the best products, right? So I think across all these three, people, places, and processes, we have a bunch of recommendations around them, but the fundamental, I guess, theory around hybrid work for us is that organizations have to embrace flexibility. When they embrace flexibility, they will become more resilient organizations.
Wow, that's quite a comprehensive. Siguro one key takeaway here, Beth, is that kailangan kapag-aralan nung mga companies the requirements for them before they jump into hybrid, no?
Absolutely.
So may mga may certain peculiarities that they need to to determine, like what you said, yung people, places, and what's the other one?
Processes.
And readiness ng mga tao to embrace that culture of hybrid. Yun. So otherwise, kapag hindi ka ready, baka may resistance. Wala, at saka yung culture wala doon, baka magkagulo or no.
Exactly.
Very
Of course, importante din dito yun na nga sabi ni Vet, yung productivity tools, kung babagay ba doon sa business, di ba? Na pinapatakbo nila. Kasi minsan, yun na nga, may resistance mga tao, especially pag there's something new when it comes to technology And of course, hindi mo maiwasan na hindi technological itong approach na to when it comes
Oh
to
yeah.
hybrid. And people will be, yun na nga, hesitant to anything that will be in front of them.
That's true. That is absolutely true. In fact, as organizations embrace hybrid work, one of the fundamental discussions we always have is adoption and change management. There has to be a strategy on adoption and change management, always.
Sabi nga ni Pedoy Jr. dito sa Facebook natin, well said, businesses really need to embrace the hybrid workforce or model, sabi niya. Ayun. And how is it right now, the adoption ng hybrid in the Philippines?
Before
Ayun. And
yeah, it's varying. It's varying. As I mentioned, I was talking to a very large organization just a few days. When was it? Yeah, just last Thursday in our office, we hosted their executives, and the conversation was very advanced. They've embraced hybrid work. They allow their employees to work from the office or at home whenever they want to. They've given them the tools. They've empowered their teams to decide how they want to do it. On the other hand, there's also those that are still navigating a bit more of the scheduling component, MWF/TTHS. Some are still thinking about, we want to do this. We were completely unprepared with hybrid work. We didn't have the tools during the last 2 years. So now we're starting to embrace some of those tools, but we need a framework and an approach. And so that's sort of the conversations we've been having around people, places, and processes.
Pero yun na nga, yung pandemic, parang this is all so sudden and everybody needs to embrace this. Then suddenly after 2 years or almost 3 years, balik na naman tayo. Everyone's pushing it back na naman sa pre-pandemic. Napansin nyo ba parang yun na nga, yung everybody's out and about yung mga business nila. Yung sudden, may effect ba to sa mga tao yung ganito naman, balik na naman, panibago na naman itong area na to. Nag-start pa lang ako matuto nitong hybrid na to. Ngayon, pinapapasok nyo na ulit ako, yung mga ganun.
Yeah, exactly. That's the thing. So there's two components to driving the behavior to come back to the office. On one hand, if the organization offers flexibility, let's say for example si Microsoft, the reason I want to go to the office is because I'm pretty excited kasi bago yung office namin. And I miss my colleagues and I miss the conversations we're having and medyo learning from each other. On the other hand, there's this drive naman na primarily because the organization is pulling the employees to come back to the office and there's no choice. We just have to come, right? And so that those are two different scenarios, although both of them are causing that influx to come out of their homes and to go to the office. But I would say, as long as organizations find that balance, that flexibility, so that their employees can deliver to what their organizations need, while they feel that balance, that their organization cares for them and their welfare, and understand I can do my work here for you. I can do it at home when I need to. But if you allow me to come to the office once in a while and you say that as a team, we're going to come here on Wednesday for lunch, I'll be happy to go. Right?
Kasi mas concerned ako yung sudden changes eh. Okay, kasi alam ko yung flexibility, parang natural na yan. Tayo after the lockdown nung March 2020, slowly tayo na adapt tayo, di ba? Dahan-dahan, hindi yung pero yung ibang tao syempre bigla naman talaga yung changes, pero I mean, eventually umabot tayo dun sa sa ating mangyari. Ngayon, di ba, bilang I don't know, may panibagong senaryo bigla na, kasi nga iba yung ngayon eh, iba yung senaryo ngayon eh. Parang yung aside from the pandemic, ayan yung traffic and yung public transportation, talagang ang daming factors ngayon talaga na nahihirapan yung mga tao. I think mas affected ang mental health nila ngayon.
Absolutely. And I think that's fundamentally why, and I think I touched on this earlier, organizations need to embrace flexibility or resiliency, right? So it's one thing for their employees, but as an organization, as a whole, right? If you don't embrace flexibility now, there's just no saying of what happens next,
Ganun
right?
na nga
But
Ganun na nga
exactly. So, right, we had the pandemic. Now we have all of these economical situations before us. If your organization embraces flexibility, there's a better chance that they'll be ready for what's next. On the other side of the fence, we've had conversations with customers when the pandemic hit. These were the same customers that we've been telling them earlier on that, look, there's an opportunity to embrace flexibility. No, we're good. We're never going to let our employees work from home. I've had these conversations. I guarantee we're not going to allow work from home in the next 10 years of our organization. Bam, pandemic hit. And all of a sudden, they're embracing all of these technologies that they were not keen to do. So, point being, moving forward, and I think this goes for anything, right? That if even as an individual, if you embrace a growth mindset, that anything can happen, that as long as you keep growing, as long as you keep learning, organizations that embrace a growth mindset means that they embrace flexibility because they know that anything can happen and that they want to be a resilient organization.
And these are the companies who survives.
They are the ones that survive, that thrive, that have happy employees and happy customers and partners. Yes.
Yun na yun.
But what is the hybrid future now? Kasi I listened intently to, kaya wala kaming questions Galing mong professor, nilatag mo na lang. Pero ito yung tanong ko ngayon. After you mentioned things like trust, accountability, measuring productivity. Then you have tools that on your end that can help, deliver that. We're talking of equity and access and availability and connectivity. Lahat yan mahalaga. Pero ang hindi mo na-touch dyan is that policy. Because everything that you mentioned, like for example, if we did not have the draconian policies of the IATF, because military men were the ones who deployed it when it was a health issue, di ba? So ibig sabihin nun, if we did not have those policies in place, and it would have been, or we could have transitioned into a more successful hybrid environment, given what you mentioned. So the question is, what is the hybrid future for us now? Will it be dependent on the pandemic? Will it be dependent on the variants of COVID-19, or can we be autonomous? Is there a proposal, or is there something in your technological toolkit that will assure that businesses can be autonomous in that hybrid future?
Absolutely. I think, Sir Raymund, one of the things we completely embrace as Microsoft is that hybrid work is not a complete set of instructions, of recommendations, of guidance that's fixed, that's set in stone. It is going to change. Our recommendations, our learnings last year are quite different from what we've seen this year.
Okay.
We've seen that last year the conversation was around, remote work, hybrid work is here to stay. Everybody has to embrace it. 2 years down the road, we're learning that social, face-to-face is still critical, right? So these things are going to change as we go on, pretty much like technology. They're going to continue to evolve. But what we always, and I think what we fundamentally recommend for all of our customers is that if we embrace a growth mindset, flexibility, I keep going back to this, but it's true because
It's true. Yep.
If you embrace flexibility, if you embrace a growth mindset, organizations that embrace a learn it all growth mindset type of culture will thrive moving forward.
Progressive mindset talaga no? Talagang yes.
Correct.
Hindi ka pwedeng traditional politician ang dating mo.
Siya yung tools na talagang hanggang doon pinasok natin. Pero yung tools na ino-offer ng Microsoft maliwanag na magdadala ng flexibility. Ako happy ako that work from home, di ba?
Actually, I'm also using Office 365.
Diba?
Yes,
at saka yung judiciary, which is really tradition bound talaga, is
correct.
slowly adapting. Actually, I saw a photo release of the Supreme Court meeting up with Microsoft employees led by Peter Masquera and
Absolutely.
si Joanna Rodriguez regarding the integration of various technology from Microsoft to allow the judiciary, various court employees to use these tools para mga hearings, hybrid online hearings, online filing ng pleadings, payments, and siguro hybrid work na rin, no? Vet, no?
Exactly.
Yes. Ako experience ko sa 365 tsaka Microsoft Teams when I was with MSN Philippines. Talagang yan araw-araw ginagamit namin nung Southeast Asian team. Talagang grabe yung productivity tool na yan na nakatulong sa MSN. Talagang syempre MSN na yun kailangan yun ang gamitin din namin na tools, no. Gawa din dapat ng Microsoft. Pero doon ako nababad talaga. Doon ko talaga natutunan ko paano gamitin yan.
True. And it's inspiring how, to your point, attorney, how the likes of the Supreme Court has really embraced. So one of the things that I think we published a public story on this when the pandemic hit in 2020 around how the Supreme Court needed to adapt a conferencing solution immediately to be able to continue the judiciary processes. No, so it was a complete halt. And so how do we ensure that the rights of every Filipino were upheld at the time that the judiciary was at a bit of a pause? Right. And so with Microsoft 365 and Microsoft Teams, they embraced virtual hearings. It was such a success that they've had thousands of hearings on top of Microsoft Teams. And what I'm so inspired of with Supreme Court is that, as you mentioned, attorney, we're in a partnership with them to really digitally transform the judiciary moving forward. So beyond virtual court hearings, we're thinking about the likes of hybrid virtual meetings with the courtrooms. We're thinking about digitization of many aspects of the experience with the judiciary. And so it's very inspiring. And we want to do that with more organizations in the country for sure.
Oo nga, meron ako kilala mga lawyers who didn't have a clue how to use a computer or smartphone.
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
Napilitan sila kasi yung hearings namin puro sa Microsoft Teams. So that's their first entry point exposure to technology, yung Microsoft Teams. Kasi doon yung hearings. So it's a very it's a very very user friendly. So so everything went well. Ngayon they're medyo adept and used to doing those tools to for things. Well, anyway,
totoo yan.
we're almost
Sorry, attorney, share ko lang kasi yung
Okay,
mga co-professors ko ganyan din the older ones actually resigned because they found Zoom so difficult talaga. Kasi sabi nila ang kausap daw nila one by one. Ang kausap lang namin Prof. Trips, one by one daw dun sa screen. So imagine if you have a class of 23, ang lilit ng mga mukha nila sa screen, mga one by one lang daw, right? So it was a difficult transition.
Parang picture, one by one picture.
Actually, even the local banking industry is also benefiting from this Microsoft productivity tools. Parang recently yata tong Security Bank just has a partnership with Microsoft using all these tools, diba?
Yes. So Security Bank has been using, it's been using Microsoft Teams for a while. But their adoption for Microsoft Teams soared. And the recent story that we published was around, and it touches the third point around processes. So they have this sales process where they have this massive Word document that's a template of a sales contract. And for sellers, what they have to do is, depending on what they're offering to their client, they would remove bits and pieces of that guy. It's huge of a Word document, And so what we've done is we've helped them because a lot of their client meetings are, of course, happening on Teams. What if we can automate that process right within Microsoft Teams also? So we built this app with them that's built, it's running on top of Microsoft Teams so that they can just click, okay, these are the components that I want to propose. And then choose the components that I'm proposing for my customers, and then generate proposal, and it generates that proposal for them, and then they can share it right there and then with the customer. So it's saved massive time for them, and it's a fantastic example of hybrid work beyond just virtual meetings, but also really true hybrid work by digitizing a lot of these processes that are manual, that takes weeks to even complete moving forward.
Ayun.
Okay, thank you very much to Yvette Watson. Supposedly, dapat 30 minutes lang yung interview sa
Oo, pero yes, lumagpas na rin. Ganda ng usapan.
Naging isang oras na.
Oo, gumanda yung usapan about hybrid work. And
Ibig sabihin,
tools
this is hybrid is here to stay. And kasi nakita natin during the pandemic, it can work, di ba? So,
Pwede pala.
instead of us totally going back to siguro compromise na lang yung hybrid, no? Middle ground.
Compromise, yes.
Yun. So, okay. Maraming salamat sa iyo, Yvette Watson from Microsoft. Your ano nga ba yung actual designation mo?
Modern Work and Security Business Lead. Attorney.
Modern Work and Security Business Lead.
Yun, medyo. Ganyan yung mga titles sa mga technology companies, no?
Yes, basta lead, yan. Sila yung lead.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you for having me.
Okay, next time ulit, Yvette,
Absolutely.
Okay, yes. Good.
Okay. Thank you very much. Ayun. So, kukuha na tayo ng Microsoft,
Ay, naka-365 na ako eh. Naka-365 na ako. Gamit ko 365 sa text.
365 na. Actually, magandang collaboration to 365 kasi kita mo talaga yung edit.
Everything. Yan, nung nasa MSN Philippines ako, yan ang ginagawa. Kaya ngayon until now, naka-365 ako kasi remnants yan eh. Kumbaga, yun na. Sabi ko, okay pala to. So, tuloy-tuloy na ginamit ko na siya.
Oo. Ayun. Sabi ni Anton Mon, maganda topic, basta Microsoft. Parang pa si Anton Mon dito na parang kasama niya yata si
parang kilala niya si Yvette.
Kakala niya, remember Phil IT.org and Philwog. Philwog? Anyway, hindi natin natanong nakalimutan natin itanong kay Yvette kanina. Si Alvin Pingol, good evening. Tsaka si Jalani de la Cruz. Ayun, nakikita ako sa nakakamot ng ulo. Ano pa ba? Ayan. Okay. Ayun, maraming salamat.
Sabi ni Winthrop, very good daw, knowledgeable ang guest. Hindi obvious na nagpo-push na
agenda. Oo nga, galing. Ang galing naman. Ano na yung nag-explain siya about yung culture?
Yes.
Hindi pala basta-basta kayo jump right into it, no? Kailangan pag-aralan mo muna no?
Kasi ibang-iba talaga culture ng business culture ng mga Pilipino. 'Di ba pag nasa US tayo, 'di ba tayo pag nasa US tayo, iba yung nararamdaman natin magkaiba eh. 'Di ba? Pag may mga kasama na tayo, iba yung nila eh. Mga Pinoy pa naman pagdating sa mga ganito, mga virtual. Sa presscon nga hindi nagtatanong ang Pinoy, yung pa kaya sa virtual.
Oo.
Kaya iba talaga. Just imagine sa mga business, kailangan yung boss alam, tama ba ang ginagawa natin? What's the bottom line? Walang sumasagot.
And na-explain naman ni Yvette ng mahusay na kung bakit dapat pag-aralan muna yung people, places, and processes, sabi niya, di ba? So yung PPP, no? Okay, magaling. Okay, thank you very much sa kay Yvette na Watson.
Microsoft Philippines na rin, thank you.
Okay, maraming salamat sa lahat ng ating nakakasalamuha for tonight. And of course, ating magiting na co-host na si Tito Tribs. Ay, sasabihin ka ba, Tito Tribs?
Sige, maraming salamat. Take a bow. Ha? Maraming salamat at ganda ng discussion. Ganda ng discussion.
Thank you very much to
Um,
you and happy anniversary to
Yes.
Newsbytes.
Happy anniversary, Newsbytes.
Happy
Palakpakan.
anniversary, Newsbytes.
Isang dosenang taon. Yun. Okay. Maraming salamat.
Magpapainom ka.
O nga, no?
Oo,
Magpapainom ka.
doon tayo sa liquor shop. Doon kayo.
Ang
Punta kayo
liquor
doon.
shop, tama.
Oo. Kailan?
Libre
Kailan?
kami doon.
Punta tayo.
Kayo bahala. May mga inumin tayo doon. No?
Okay.
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 Thank you very much. Ako po si Melvin Calimag ng Newsbytes. See you again next week. Good night.
Okay, Jing Garcia po ng TechSabado.com. Huwag niyo pong kalimutan, Sunday in Business and IT sa Sunday Times ng The Manila Times. Bukas po ng linggo. Like at follow niyo po ang aming mga social media pages. Facebook.com/TechSabado, Facebook.com/NewsbytesPH. Nasa Twitter din po kami at TechSabado at saka at NewsbytesPH. Sa mga nanonood sa atin sa ating mga platform, tulad po ng YouTube channel namin at TechSabado, give us a thumbs up and subscribe. Ganon din po sa atin Facebook page na Tech Sabado. Subscribe, like and share nyo sa ating mga videos at sa mga ating mga content doon. Huwag niyo pong kalimutan sa Tuesday with Tito Chips Tribdino, alas 8 din po ng gabi. Maraming salamat sa ating mga kaibigan sa PLDT Smart Group Corporate Communications Team sa walang humpay na pagsuporta po ng ating mga online shows tulad po ng Tech Sabado, and today is Tuesday. Thank you MSI Philippines sa ating mga pagsuporta rin sa ating website and of course sa ating programa, VSTETS sa ating website, Maki and RCF para sa ating mga audio equipment sa Tech Sabado at saka today is Tuesday. Mabibili po sa themusicsourceph.com. Tandaan, hindi lahat ng nasa internet ay totoo. Pangalagaan niyo po ang inyong mga data at private personal information para po makaiwas sa identity theft na pwedeng gamitin sa cybercrime. Keep in mind, if you don't stand for something, you'll fall for anything. Respetuhin po natin ang karapatang pantao. Dito po nagtatapos ang Tech Sabado. Hope to interact with you again on Facebook and YouTube next Saturday. Pati na rin po sa... As a COVID survivor, please wear a mask, stay home, stay safe. Nako, may mga alert level na naman na pinapalabas ng ating gobyerno. So take that vaccine and booster din po para hindi po humina ang ating resistensya. Booster. Have a great weekend, everyone. Goodbye. Thank you.
Teka, Tech Sabado. Kasama ang ating tech journalist na si Jing Garcia at Melvin Calimag. Tech Sabado. Teka, Tech Sabado. Kasama ang ating